Welcome back to the Arbitress YouTube channel. In today's class, we're going to learn how to make this beautiful built-up collar neckline dress, and it has a multiple godet. So we made this on a plus size, as you can see, and it's looking really nice and beautiful. I'm going to take you through how to cut and sew this in this class. If this is something you'd like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so this is a built-up collar neckline, but I'm going to be working with a princess dart. So it's just going to be a princess that's not necessarily a busty. I'm not going to be padding it. So because it's a built-up neckline, for the built-up, you need allowance on the upper part here before you start taking your measurements. So that is the allowance that I have marked here. So from there, I'm going to start taking my measurements. So this is going to be my shoulder line. So from there, I'm going to take my armhole measurement. This is for a plus size. Okay. So after taking your armhole measurement, you're going to need to take your bust point measurement as well. Okay. This is where I have it. And then you're going to take your half length measurement. So for the front, the half length is 20, and for the back it is 18. So I have like 2 inches difference from the front and back half length. So we're going to be taking care of that. So this is the measurement that I have, and I'm going to make them into a straight line. So the shoulder I'm working with is 18 inches divided by 2 is 9 inches. So here I'm going to come here and mark 9 inches for my shoulder. Here I'm going to come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, and the neck width I'm working with is 3 inches. So I'm going to take my ruler now and then connect that together. Okay, so to create my armhole, the 9 inches that I have here, I'm going to mark it on this side as well, and then I'm going to make that into a straight line. So you're going to get your midpoint for that, and then you're going to come in by half an inch. You already know all of this. So here we're going to take our bust measurement. The round bust I'm working with is 51 inches. Like I said, this is for a plus size. So I have 51 inches here. I'm going to divide that into 4. So 51 divided by 4 is giving me about 12.75. So here I'm going to mark 12.75, and this is without seam allowance. So what I'm going to do now is to go ahead and connect this together like this, and then you're going to take your curve and then connect from there all the way to where you have your bust. So if you can take it together, it's fine. If not, you just maneuver your way around it, curve your ruler, and then get something really nice. But make sure that whatever curve you are making is as smooth as possible. So if you have a better curve, you can work with it. But I'm going to make do with the curve that I have here. So this is going to be my armhole curve. The next thing is to take my dart. So here to take my dart, this is the armhole line, this is the bust point, and this is my waist. There's no under bust here because I'm not really padding it proper. So here I'm going to work with my bust span measurement. The bust span I'm working with here is 10.5 inches. So you're going to divide that into 2, and whatever you have, you are going to mark it. So I'm marking that on my bust point as well as my waistline, and then I'm going to make that into a straight line. So on my waistline now, I'm going to take my dart. I'm going to do 0.75 on both sides. Okay, I'm going to take 0.75 on both sides, so that's like taking 1.5, and then I'm going to connect that to my bust point. I'm working with an armhole princess dart. So you're going to come over to the armhole area, and then you're going to come down by, let's say, 5 inches, or you can just mark what you have there and then divide that into 2. So I'm just coming down by 5.5 inches, and the next thing is to take your curved ruler, and then you're going to connect from there all the way to your bust point. So please make sure that you're working with a very good curve, and make sure that your connection is as smooth as possible. So that is what we have here. So here on the armhole area, I'm going to be taking a dart of 0.5 or 0.75 as well on the 2 sides like this, and then I'm going to connect it back to my armhole as well. to my bust point as well. So again, I'm going to take my curved ruler and then find somewhere that I can get a really nice curve and connect for the first one, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the second one. So for this second one, I'm going to extend it. I'll check the amount of that intake that I'm taking here is almost 1.5, and then I'm going to be extending this by that intake. So now what you need to do is to go ahead and redraw your armhole. If you don't do this, you are going to have shortage. So now we are done with this. If you have a shortage here, you're going to measure it and then replace it back at the side so that I don't have any shortage. So I'm going to come to my waistline here. The waist I'm working with is 45.5. So here I'm going to mark 40. I'm going to look for 45.5, and then I'm going to divide that into 4. So if you divide that into 4, this is giving me about 11 point, almost 11.5 inches. So I'm going to mark that here. You see what you have here first, and then you shift it and continue. So once you have your 11.5, you are going to mark it. So this is going to be my point, but I want to add my seam allowance here. Okay, so you can actually do this directly on your fabric if you are not adding a bust dart, but I'm adding a bust dart to mine, so I'm cutting on my pattern. So here I'm going to add my necessary seam allowance depending on the seam allowance that you work with. So once you add that, you're going to go ahead and then connect them together. So like I said, I'm working with a bust dart, so I'm going to come to my bust point and then come down by whatever difference that you have from your front and back half length, and then you're going to connect that for your bust dart. So this is the pattern that I am working with. So the next thing now is to go ahead and modify the neckline. Remember that we're working with a built-up collar neckline. So now for your bit of collar neckline, depending on how high you want it to be, on your neck point, my neck width is 3 inches. So on that point, you're going to come up by how high you want your neckline it to be. So for me, around 2 inches is fine. So you'll see me coming up by 2 inches. Okay, so this is 2 inches. I'm coming up by 2 inches. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to, so here I'm going to come in by half an inch on that point where the 2 inches mark stops. I'll come in by half an inch here, and then I'm going to connect that back to my neck point. Okay, it is as simple as that. So the next thing now is to go ahead and create my neckline depth. To determine how deep your neckline is going to be, I'm going to mark that from my shoulder point here. So around 7 inches is fine for me. So I'm going to mark it at 7 inches. So what you just need to do now is to place your curved ruler on this new point now, and then you're going to connect that to your neck depth. You can use your free hand to do that, or you can use your curve. Whichever one you want to work with is fine. So this is what I have for mine. If you want it to be a little wider, you can also increase it. Okay, you can reshape it, or you can get another type of curve. It's actually up to you and how you want your neckline to be. So I'm just going to try to smoothen this out so that it looks better. Okay, so this is what my neckline is going to look like for the front. So we are done. The next thing is to just add seam allowances around what you have here. I'm going to add my allowance all around. So here you just make a smooth curve around here. You make sure that it is not as sharp. That's why I did not bother to smoothen it out, because I'm still going to add allowance to it. So this is what I have. So for the back is simple. I already have my regular back bodies here. So the only modification we're going to be doing to this is the neckline. So just like we did for the front, I'm going to come to the neck point and I'm going to come up by 2 inches. The same measurement that you used for the front is what you're going to use for the back as well. So you're going to come up by 2 inches. So after coming up by 2 inches, the next thing is to go inwards by half an inch. Just the same thing we did earlier. Then I'm going to take my ruler and then connect that back to my neck point, just like this. So here I'm going to come up by 2 inches as well, so that I can have a straight line in order for me to create my neckline. So for the neckline, so that I can relax well at the back, you don't leave it straight like this. I'm going to come down by 1 inch or 0.75, and then I'm going to take my ruler and then create a curve around that place. Okay, I hope you are able to see what I have done. Let me just run you through what I've done so far. So here on my neck point here, I came up by 2 inches. Then after coming up by 2 inches, just like I did in front, here I came in by half an inch and then connected to my neck point. So here also I came upwards by 2 inches so that I can have this straight line. So for the neckline from here, I came down by 1 inch or 0.75, and then you're going to take your curved ruler and then you're going to connect like this. So this is going to be the neckline for the back. All you need to do now is to add your necessary allowance to this as well. So this is what the back looks like after adding my allowance to it. I'm not going to be working with a princess dart cut on the back because I don't want it to have so much cutting. I'm not going to be adding lining to this. I'm just going to be using a facing. So what you need to do now is to grab your scissors and cut this out. So these are the pieces that I have. This is the front, the center front, this is the side front, and this is the back. Okay, so I'm working with a black Mikado fabric. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out on my fabric. I've gone ahead to cut this on my fabric. You can see this is what I have. So this is the side front. So I've cut it out. This particular Mikado that I'm working with frizz a lot. So after cutting all the patterns on my fabric, I went ahead to serge the edges. I went ahead to weave it. You can see the edges are all neat because I don't want it to keep removing, so that my measurement is not going to reduce. So when you are doing this, because of your princess line seam, you have to be very sure of what you are weaving, so that you not weave off your measurement. So I just place it at the head. You can see that I did not lose the shape that I have there. So if you cannot do that, just try as much as possible to manage it, and then you weave it immediately you finish sewing. I just said to weave mine before. So this is the center front. I've cut the center front out as well. I'm not going to be lining this, so what I did was just to cut out facing for it. Okay, so this is the facing for the front. You can see it's just a smaller version of the front, and I have gone ahead to weave all the edges of the facing as well. I just have the neckline, and this is the main bodice for the front. So once you place your facing, you will see that it's just like a short version of the main bodice, and all the edges of this is weaved as well. Okay, so this is the center front, and this is the back. Remember, for the back, I'm not working with a princess dart, so it's just a regular dart that I'm going to be holding. You can also work with your princess dart seam, but I just don't want so much cutting on this, so I'm just working with the regular waist dart. And then for the back as well, I cut out my facing. Remember I said I'm not going to be using lining, so I cut out facing for the back. It's just a smaller version as well, covering just the collar area. So this is the facing for the back, and then this is the second back, and I have the facing for it as well. So I'm going to take this to the sewing machine now. I'm going to hold the dart. I'm going to turn the neckline. Okay, I'm going to turn the neckline. I'm going to hold the dart, and then for the front I'm going to join the princess dart So
So
seam
I've
line.
gone ahead to join the dart, you can see, and then I sew my facing to the back. So I left the center back because I want to use my facing to turn the zipper. That's why I did not sew the facing to the bodice yet. I want to use it to turn the zipper. So this is what the other one looks like as well. That's my facing, and then for the front I've also turned the facing. I sew my hemming gum to it so that when I iron it, it's going to remain flat. I don't want it to be bulky there. And then you go ahead and open your seam allowance.
I have gone ahead to iron it. You can see this is what I have for the front. This is the center for the back. This is the center back. It's still opened like this because I want to my zipper. I want to use the facing to cover the zipper off. That's why it's still open. So you can see that the collar for the lining, that's the facing, and the main body, the collar aligns. To cut your facing is very simple. Let me just show you with the pattern. Okay, so for the back, what I did was just to cut facing on the neckline area. So on the center part there, I came down by around 2 inches, and then I connected it to my collar just like this. Okay, you are going to cut this part for your facing for the back, and that is what I have here. You can see that is what I have here. Then you're going to sew it, and then for the front, the neckline is going to remain exactly the same. You can see the same neckline that you have here. Then after marking your neckline, the next thing is to mark how wide you want the facing to be. If you want it to be around 2 inches wide, you just mark 2 inches all around. Okay, you can mark it or you can just eyeball it, and then you link it to the neckline area. So you can see what I'm doing. You mark it, and when you get to your neck depth, where your neckline depth stops, you come down by around 2 inches as well, and then you just connect everything together. So all these parts that we have here is what is going to form your facing, and you make sure to cut it out on fold, which is what I did here. So this is the front. I can clearly see my facing for the front. So I've gone ahead to iron it, and you can see how flat it is. That's because there is a hemming gum there that is just gluing them together. You can see that you will not even be able to see the seam allowance. Everything is glued. This part, because I've not done the neckline, that's why I'm here to iron it down. So this is the other side, and you will see that the collar for the neckline and the neckline for the main fabric and facing, they have to be exactly the same. So if you are weaving it like mine, make sure that you don't over weave it, or you don't weave that part off, so that you don't run into any issues. So this is the princess that seam as well. I've gone ahead to open it so that it will be flat. So this is what it looks like on the right side. You can see how neat it is looking. So the next thing to do now is to bring the front and back together, and then you're going to turn the shoulder area. So you can just open it up like this, open up your facing, or you just use the facing to keep it inside the facing like this, and then you turn it like this. Okay, and then you sew, or you just open the facing, then you sew facing to facing like this, and then you sew fabric to fabric, whichever one you want to work with is fine. Then after sewing the facing, you come to the side, you align your side, you mark your seam allowance, and then join it by the side
So
as well.
this is what it looks like. I've gone ahead to join the shoulder. So you use your facing to turn some part of it so that it's going to be neatly finished. And because I've already weaved the shoulder, it's going to be neat. So you can see how neat everything is looking. I've already weaved this before sewing, so it makes the work easier. So this is what the upper part is looking like. What you need to do now is to go ahead and cut whatever skirt you want to cut today so that you can sew it, but make sure that you iron this very flat. The neckline needs to relax. You can see how it is relaxing, so it just needs to align well with your shoulder. Because it's a built up neckline, you don't want it to be looking rough or looking straight at any point, so you use your iron to correct that. So to make the skirt, I have my basic skirt block here. So it's just a regular block. You already made the half length, is a built up neckline. So you're going to deduct whatever half length measurements you're working with, you're going to deduct it, and then you're going to mark the full length that you want to work with. Now my half length is 20 inches, as you can see, including the band. So I have 53.5 inches. So my length I want to work with is actually 52. I just added hemming allowance and that made it 53. So that's the length. So here on the waistline, you're going to mark quarter of your waist measurement, divide plus extra seam allowance. Okay, my waist is 45, divided by 4 give me around 11.5 thereabout. So I added my seam allowance there. So you're going to come to the hip. So you mark your hip line. For me the hip line is 9. So on that point you're going to mark quarter of your hip divided by that's your full hip divided by 4 to get the quarter. Then you're going to add your seam allowance to that as well. My full hip is 52. This is for a plus size. So 52 divided by 6 gave me 13, and then I added my seam allowance. So this measurement, this hip measurement, that's what I took all the way to the hem. And then here for the back, you will see you need to add your zipper allowance, whatever zipper allowance you're working with. This fabric that I'm working with frizz a lot, so after cutting it I went ahead to weave it, okay, so that I won't keep losing my fabric. So that is why you see it looking like this. I've weaved every part that is coming off. I've weaved everything. You can do that after you are done sewing your skirt, or you can also line it if that is what you want. But I'm not going to be fixing lining on this, so I'm just going to weave it just like I have done. So this skirt is like a godet skirt, but it's not the regular one. We're going to be setting it. We're not just going to be slashing it. We're going to be creating room for the godet before we insert it. Okay, so the first thing you need to note now is how many godet you want to insert. For me, for each side, I'm going to be having 3 here, 3 on each side. So that's 3 for one side, 3 for the other side. That's 6 for front and 6 for back. Then I'm going to be inserting 1 by the side. I hope you understand that. Okay, so I'm going to have 3 for front, 3 for back, 6 for front, that's 3 for front, another 6 for back, 3 for back, and then I'm going to be inserting 1 by the side. So it's totally up to you. That's about 14 in all. So it's now up to you and the amount of godet you want to work with. You can do 10, you can do 12, you can do whatever you want. So I'm just going to be taking you through how I'm going to do this. And the godet is not going to be starting from my waist measurement. It's going to start around the hip line. Yours can start anywhere as well. So I'm going to be marking this, and I'm going to be achieving my godet using the slash and spread method. So you can do this on your paper. You can cut this skirt on your paper, but I just decided to cut directly on my fabric. So I'm going to trace the godet part on paper so that I can do the slash and spread. So now my camera stopped recording. So the first thing you need to note is where you want your goddess to start from, like I said. So my hip line is 9 inches. I want it a little on the upper hip area, okay, so that it's going to be free. So you can do 6 inches, you can do 5 inches, depending on what you want. But I marked mine as 7. By the time I use half an inch to sew the upper part, I'll still have 6.5, and I'm still going to sew it on top here, so it's to leave me with around 6 inches, which is fine for me. So that is the first place you will need to note. So after that, you're going to mark your seam allowance. Remember I said my hip is actually 13 inches. So from here I'm going to mark the 13 inches so I can clearly see where the seam allowance is, because that is not going to be part of my measurement. This person just wants allowance, so
That's why I'm adding this much, although I'm still going to weave it off and reduce it a little bit. So this space that I have here is my actual measurement. So now, like I said, on this side, remember this is folded into four, so each of these sides, each of the four sides is going to be having three cones. So now you're going to find a way to divide this based on how the cones are going to sit. So let's say I want it to have like a space of 4 inches interval. This part is unfold, so that 4 inch for the center is going to be 2, because the center is unfold. So from here now I'm going to mark 2 inches. Yours don't have to be like this. So the next one you're going to mark 4, but the cone you're going to mark 4, so the cone can sit in between or sit anywhere, but mine is going to be on those 4 inches. So from there I'm going to mark another 4. So it means I'll have one here, one, two. The last one is going to be on this side. So you're going to repeat what you have marked again, so that you can have it in a straight line. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the other side, and then do it for this back as well. So you can see that I've marked my seam allowance so that it can guide me on how to do all of this marking. So I'm going to do all this off camera now. You can see I have gone ahead to mark this, and then I did the same thing on the other side as well. So if you open it out, you will see your marks, they are all even. So it depends on you and the number of godet you want to have. That is what is going to determine how you are going to spread this. So the next thing now is to start creating them. So you're going to do the same thing for the back as well. This is my back, this is one of the back, and you can see this is the zipper allowance. So I started marking the first 2 inches, then the next is going to be 4 inches. So now to create this godet, it's going to be in between each of these lines. I hope you understand this. It's going to be in between each of these lines, not going to be starting here. So more like you're going to be sharing the shape like this. Then this line is going to be the center of the godet. So to be able to cut this, you can start from any one, but let me just pick the one of the back so that we can understand. This is my zipper allowance, this is the first line for the godet. So because I said this is going to be the center line, so you fold it in a way that this line is going to be at the center. You can iron it down, or you can use your pin to hold it down. So after holding it down with your pin, you decide how wide you want that space where you're going to be inserting your godet to be. You can actually, if it's the regular one, you can just, all these lines that you have here, you can just slash it open here and then insert it. But it's not going to be the regular one. We're going to be creating a little space for the godet to be able to sit very well. That's why we are doing this. So I'm pinning it, then after pinning it, I need to determine how wide I want this to be. So if you want it to be around 2 inches wide, then you're going to mark 1 inch on fold, because now it is on fold. If you want it to be 1 inch wide, you're going to mark half an inch on fold. So now I think I'm just going to mark maybe 0.75 thereabout, or 0.5, depending on how wide you want that space to be. I'm marking this because I'm still going to sew it. If I use 1 inch, okay, if I mark and cut off 1 inch and then I sew by maybe half an inch, you will see that it is so close. So that's why I'm marking around 0.75, so that by the time I sew it, it's going to leave me with 1 inch, which is going to automatically become 2 inches by the time I open it up. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So now once you make those markings, now you're going to take your ruler and then you're going to connect it. So you can see I'm going to connect those markings together. Okay, and when I'm almost at the top where the cone is going to start here, I'm going to connect it to form like cone shape. Just to, you can use your free hand to do this as well, that is what you want. Okay, so I'm just giving it this shape. So this is what my hair is going to look like by the time I cut it out. So remember I said I'm going to use slash and spread for my cone. So in order for me to be able to get what I cut out on paper, what I'm going to do is to simply fold this paper underneath it, and then so the paper is under it now, and I pinned it for stability. So what I'm going to do now is to go ahead and cut this off. So you can use this paper to cut for the rest of your pattern so that they will be alike. Okay, but I'm also going to use the paper to create my slash and spread, the slash and spread cone effect that I am working on. I'm going to use the paper to do that. You can also do freehand, but I just want us to put a measurement to it so you can see what we cut off from them. It's not so big. So if you want yours to be bigger, you just need to increase your measurement. So I'm going to remove the pin now, then you're going to see what it looks like. So this is the paper pattern of it. Okay. You can also just place this on your paper to cut it out if this is not accurate. So what you cut out from here, you can place it out, and you can also use it for your slash and spread. So it's totally up to you. So now removing this now, when I lay my skirt, you will see the shape that I have. You can see. So I'm going to be inserting my godet inside here. So what I did here is what I'm going to do to the rest of them. So if you want to do for the next one as well, you are going to take it at the midpoint here, and then you're going to cut it off. The next one, you take it and cut it off. So this is the side, so you just leave it as it is for now. You do the same thing for the other side as well, and then you're going to do the same thing for the front. You're going to be picking it at the center point here, and then you're going to cut it off. So I've cut out all the space that I want to insert the border. You can see this is the back, this is the second side of the back, and then this is the front. So let me just leave the front so that we can see. So the next thing now is to cut the body that you're going to insert. You can see the spaces. So it depends on you. Like I said, you can use the slash and spread method, and you can also cut directly on your fabric. So the first thing you need to note, if you are cutting directly on your fabric, you mark the length of the goddess. So you start from the center here, and then you're going to note the length you are working with. In this case, I have 27 and a half. You can make it 28 or 28 and a half, just to have allowance in case it's not enough. So once you have that, you're going to bring your fabric, and then you're going to put it on fold by 2. Okay, so now the fold depends on how big you want the goddess to be. For me, I want it to be around 20 inches. Okay, so this is 20 inches. So what I'm going to do now is to put this on fold by the 20 inches. So this way I'm going to have 10 inches on fold. Okay, yours can be bigger than this if that is what you want. So you are going to form a cone with this. So after putting it on fold like this, you can press it down so that I can relax well. So I'm going to bring my chalk. This is my chalk. I'm going to mark like a starting point, which is going to be here. So it's going to be in form of a cone. So the next thing now is to mark the length that we're working with. So let's say we're working with 28 inches. I'm going to mark 28 inches here, and then I'm going to connect. So what you just need to do now is to form a diagonal line from this starting point all the way to where the 28 inches stops. So you're going to place it like this. So once you mark this, you're going to make it into a straight line. So this is one method to do it. Another method to do it is to take the pieces, one of the pieces you cut out, okay, like this. You're going to place it at the tip here, and then you place it to the end like this. So you're going to use that to mark it out. Whichever one you can see, you're going to place it like this and then mark that out. Whichever method you choose to work with is fine. Just make sure that it is not too sharp,
because the part we are sewing into is not sharp as well. We actually created a space for the goddess. So to make this easy, I'm just going to go ahead now and connect this together. So on the starting point here, I'm not going to make it really sharp, like very sharp, because of that space that I cut out. So once you connect like this, you're going to recheck your measurement. Because of this diagonal line is going to be longer than the 28 inches that we initially intend to use. So now I'm going to measure where 28 inches is, which is here, and then I'm going to measure that all around to form like a flare shape, you can see. So once you have your 28 inches there, you are going to connect it. So this is going to be like a template for cutting out the rest of my flare. So you can see what I have. So you can check with your cutout to see. Okay, you can see where this stuff. Remember, I added 3 inches allowance to that. So on this part, you can cut it out like this, so you can just shape it a little bit so that it's not going to be too sharp. So once you have that, you're going to grab your scissors, and then you're going to cut out what you have. So you are going to use this to cut the number of shapes that you need. Okay, you're going to use it to cut out the number of shapes that you are working with. In this case, I'm working with 12 cones. So I'm going to go ahead. If you want each of your cones to be bigger than this, I use 10 inches on my hem on fold, which means when I open it out, it's going to be 20 inches. So you can make yours bigger or smaller depending on what you want. My scissors is not so sharp, so I'm going to go off camera now and then use this to cut out the rest of my cone, and then I'm going to bring it to show us what we have. You can see that I'm trying not to make it too sharp here so that it can fit into my space. So what I'm going to do basically, so that this video is not going to be too long, is to simply slot this inside this space that we have here. So you can see I'm going to sew it inside each of the spaces, so it's going to give it like a flare effect. That is what I'm going to be doing. Okay, so you cut it and take it to your sewing machine, pin it at the center point here, and then you sew to the right and also to the left. I'm going to do all of this now and bring it back to show us what we have. Okay, so I've gone ahead to sew. I lost some clip, so what I did was just to insert the godet to it, and then I sew it to the half length. And I also have a 1 inch band there. So I have a tutorial on how you can insert your godet already. If you don't know how to, on the channel, then you fix a zipper at the back, but make sure that, because it has a lot of cutting on the skirt area and the fabric we are working with frills a lot, so you make sure that you weave every part. You can see what the inside looks like. You don't want it to be looking rough, so you make sure you take it to your weaving machine or use your bias. Anything you can do, just make sure that it is neat because of all the cutting that we did there. So you just sew the half length to the band, and then you sew the band to the skirt. You hem the dress, and this is what you're going to have. So you can see how beautiful this is looking and how simple it is to make. Like I said, it's for a plus size, so I just used a pin to hold it so that we can see what it looks like and see how the godet is standing beautifully. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.